Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Abasa wa tawalla. He frowned and turned away.
And the Prophet ﷺ frowned and turned away. Now,
جاءه الأعمى. Because there came to him the blind man, interrupting.
and Ibn Maktoum radiallahu an came to the Prophet ﷺ while he was preaching to some of the chiefs of Quraysh. And Surah Abasa is Makkiyah. So while the Prophet ﷺ was preaching to some of the chiefs of Quraysh, Ibn Maktoum, who was one of the blind Sahaba, he came to him. Now, you need to understand why the Prophet ﷺ frowned and turned away. The Prophet ﷺ loved Ibn Maktoum. There's no issue with that. And the Prophet ﷺ, he gave him his time. Like in the Prophet ﷺ saw here, he's in the middle of speaking to the nobles of Quraysh. And he's trying to give them da'wah. And this man comes who is not from the nobility of Quraysh, and he's just an insignificant, regular person. And so the Prophet ﷺ frowned and turned away. As-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, Abasa ay fi wajhihi, and he frowned on his face, وَتَوَلَّى fi badanihi, and he turned his body away. And he said, a man from the believers came to ask the Prophet ﷺ and to learn from him. So Ibn Maktoum came sincerely to the Prophet ﷺ to learn, whereas the people of Quraysh were not being sincere. وجاءه رجل من الأغنياء وكان حريصا على هداية الخلق فمال إلى الغني وصد عن الأعمى الفقير. The Prophet ﷺ leaned towards the wealthy person, hoping that he would accept Islam, hoping for the good of it. Not because he's not craving wealth. He hoped this rich person or these rich people would accept Islam and be able to help the Muslims. But he turned away from that poor person. And that poor blind person came sincerely, and that rich or wealthy person or people were not sincere. So Allah Azza wa Jal rebuked him for that. And this is a principle with regard to the Prophet ﷺ. First of all, the Prophet ﷺ is free of anything that will take away from his messengership. He is free of any major sin. But the Prophet ﷺ made mistakes. Those mistakes were genuine errors. It was not deliberate. And the Prophet ﷺ did not deliberately want to hurt Ibn Maktoum and want to get the money of the wealthy person. Rather, the Prophet ﷺ wanted da'wah, wanted khair for the people. And he presumed that there is little khair in this man and there's a lot of khair in this man. That was the mistake. That he presumed that there's only, what is this man going to bring? And this man, he can bring a lot. So Allah Azza wa Jal rebuked him for that. And that rebuke is the next principle with regard to the mistakes that the Prophet ﷺ fell into by accident, is that Allah doesn't leave them. Because if Allah left it, what would happen? It would become a sunnah. So the sunnah would be anytime someone sincerely comes to you and there's someone else that you are keen to speak to, and the sunnah is to frown. So to teach the people that this is not a sunnah, Allah Azza wa Jal rebuked the Prophet ﷺ, Abasa wa tawalla an ja'ahu al-a'ma.
وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى. But what would make you perceive, O Muhammad, that perhaps he might be purified?
Perhaps Ibn Maktoum might become pure because of what he learns from you, and maybe the other one will not, or the other ones will not.
أَوْ يَذَّكَّرُ فَتَنْفَعَهُ الذِّكْرَى. Or be reminded and the remembrance would benefit him.
Ibn Maktoum.
أَمَّا مَنِ اسْتَغْنَى. As for he who thinks himself without need.
The one that the Prophet ﷺ was speaking to, and he was trying to bring him to Islam from the influential people of Quraysh, istaghna. He says, I don't need Allah, I don't need Islam.
فَأَنْتَ لَهُ تَصَدَّى. To him you give attention. وَمَا عَلَيْكَ أَلَّا يَزَّكَّى, and not upon you is any blame if he will not be purified.
And if he doesn't accept Islam, it's not your fault. You gave him the message. So don't give him more than he deserves. You gave him a message. If he doesn't accept, that's his problem, not your problem. You can give your attention to the people who deserve it, like Ibn Maktoum radiallahu anhu.
وَأَمَّا مَنْ جَاءَكَ يَسْعَى, but as for he who came to you striving for knowledge,
نعم.
وَهُوَ يَخْشَى, while he fears Allah,
نعم.
فَأَنْتَ عَنْهُ تَلَهَّى, from him you are distracted.
And you're not giving him attention. You're not giving attention to him, even though he's more deserving of attention than the one that you're giving your attention to. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
كَلَّا إِنَّهَا تَذْكِرَةٌ, no, indeed they are a reminder.
Nam haqqan, yani it's not no here. No is not the right word. Here it's truly. Truly this is a reminder. Kalla haqqan, truly this is a reminder.
فَمَنْ شَاءَ ذَكَرَهُ, so whoever wills may remember it.
And the one who wants to. Now, the one who wants to will remember it. Will remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
فِي صُحُفٍ مُكَرَّمَةٍ, it is recorded in honored sheets.
In Allah al-Mahfuz.
مَرْفُوعَةٍ مُطَهَّرَةٍ, exalted and purified.
No.
بِأَيْدِي سَفَرَةٍ, carried by the hands of messenger angels.
No.
Salam. كِرَامٍ بَرَرَةٍ, noble and dutiful.
No.
قُتِلَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا أَكْفَرَهُ, destroyed is man, how disbelieving is he.
Any cursed is man, any the disbeliever among men. How great of a disbeliever and how ungrateful is he.
مِنْ أَيِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَهُ, from what thing did he create him?
Now,
مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ خَلَقَهُ فَقَدَّرَهُ, from a sperm drop he created him and destined him for him.
in his lifespan, his provisions, how he will look.
ثُمَّ السَّبِيلَ يَسَّرَهُ, then he eased the way for him.
Into this world, his birth or his life, and he made it easy for him to come into this world, be born, and to start living his life.
ثُمَّ أَمَاتَهُ فَأَقْبَرَهُ, then he causes his death and provides a grave for him.
No.
ثُمَّ إِذَا شَاءَ أَنْشَرَهُ, then when he wills, he will resurrect him.
No.
كَلَّا لَمَّا يَقْضِ مَا أَمَرَهُ, no, he has not yet accomplished what he commanded him.
Any man has yet to fulfill the commands that Allah commanded him. One moment, I will tell you what As-Sa'di said. He said, كلا لا يقوم بما أمره الله ولم يقضي ما فرضه عليه بل لا يزال مقصرا تحت الطلب. He said he didn't do what Allah commanded him and he hasn't fulfilled the obligations Allah put upon him. Rather, he is neglectful and he falling short in what Allah Azza wa Jal asked him to do.
فَلْيَنظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ, then let mankind look at his food.
Now,
أَنَّا صَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا, how we poured down water in torrents.
now,
ثُمَّ شَقَقْنَا الْأَرْضَ شَقًّا, then we broke upon the earth, splitting it with sprouts. فَأَنْبَتْنَا فِيهَا حَبًّا, and caused to grow within it grain.
now,
وَعِنَبًا وَقَضْبًا, and grapes and herbage.
any green fodder for the green plants that the cattle eat. Now,
وَزَيْتُونًا وَنَخْلًا, and olive and palm trees.
Ikhwani, the class is still going. To tell the brothers to be quiet, please. عفوا عائد الآية.
وَزَيْتُونًا وَنَخْلًا, and olive and palm trees.
نعم.
وَحَدَائِقَ غُلْبًا, and gardens of dense shrubbery.
نعم.
وَفَاكِهَةً وَأَبًّا, and fruit and grass.
Fruit and fodder. This is any abba. This is the word Umar didn't know. When Umar was explaining the surah, and then Umar, he said, wa abba, and he said, what is al-ab? And he said, don't burden yourself, Ya ibn al-Khattab, O son of al-Khattab, don't burden yourself. And you don't say something about the Quran you don't know. It was a word he was not familiar with. It is the fodder that the animals eat. As-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he said about it, he said, Al-ab ma ta'kuluhu al-baha'im wal-an'am, that which the animals and the cattle eat.
مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ, as enjoyment for you and your grazing livestock. فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الصَّاخَّةُ, but when there comes to the deafening blast.
And as-Sakha is also the name of the day of resurrection.
يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ, on the day a man will flee from his brother. وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ, and his mother and his father. وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ, and his wife and his children. لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ, for every man that day will be a matter adequate for him.
And a matter to occupy him. And he'll be concerned with himself alone.
وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ مُسْفِرَةٌ, some faces that day will be bright. ضَاحِكَةٌ مُسْتَبَشِرَةٌ, laughing, rejoicing at good news. وَوُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَلَيْهَا غَبَرَةٌ, and other faces that day will have upon them dust. تَرْهَقُهَا قَتَرَةٌ, blackness will cover them. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَفَرَةُ الْفَجَرَةُ, those are the disbelievers, the wicked ones.
But with that, inshallah ta'ala, we finished Surah Abasa. After that, we have Surah At-Takwir, and that will be tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. We have about 18 pages, but it's Juz Amma, so the pages are, the ayat are a bit easier, inshallah. We will finish it tomorrow, inshallah. So tomorrow we'll start at the same time as always, which is 2 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. Dubai time, inshallah ta'ala. And we will continue until we finish, even if it is after Asr or if it is until Maghrib or whatever it is. But we will continue until we finish, inshallah ta'ala, because we have only about 3/4, a bit more than 3/4 of the juz left. So we can finish it in one sitting, inshallah ta'ala. That's what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for me to mention, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.